is Nooga Radio, brought to you today by Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. And Dave Crockett and I do have a dispute, and that is who is the biggest Nooga centrist in town. Is it him or is it me? He's the man who brought, as a member of City Council, the environmental city to the fore, and in the 1980s and the early 1990s, acting as almost as if he were a mayor, but he was just the county commission on the city council, but earned plaudits for his work on the environment, and also an understanding, kind of organic understanding of how cities work. This is David Tulis, and I would say that since he's not in the room, that I am the leading Nooga centrist, the guru of local economy and the free market, guru of local economy and the free market. There's a homeschool expo that I want you to know about, and I'd like you to attend it if you have children in the venue, children at home, either your own children or grandchildren. And this is an event where the ideas of education, the love of learning is highlighted, and people who come, whether alone or with wife or children or with husbands and children, or with mothers. Sometimes moms come with their own moms. It is all about love of learning, love of reading, and the love of not just academics, but all things about learning, experiential learning, learning by watching. There are software available. There are games. There are educational games galore. There are books, out-of-print books, used books, and all kinds of new editions, much in favor of constitutional government, much in favor of the way of published material, in favor of creation, and you might say a better view of history than you'll find in most bookstores. And there's a lot going on. I'll be there for most of the day today, or Friday, and all of the day in God's good providence on Saturday. This is David Tulis, and we're here at Nooga Radio, and the event starts Friday at 9 a.m. It goes till 6, just at dinner time, and Saturday from 9 to 4. Big crowds on and off during the day. About 1,000 families are likely to attend the best home education, the best curriculum fair expo in the Southeast, brought to you by the local Home Education Association. There's a good deal to do going on that I'm trying to get caught up on, and it is on the county commission, which, as I'm reading in Chattanooga.com, voted 7-2 on yesterday to it said discard a resolution passed earlier. Well, I think the action is more in the nature of rescission. A rescission is the undoing of something ab initio. Particularly, well, ab initio means from the beginning, right? From the initial point on, this act undoes the earlier act, and it was touching on the interest that the commission has had in the fight, if you will, between board member Tim Boyd and Bob Doak and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. That's a kind of a slush fund, you might say, for advertising, for hobnobbing, for socializing and marketing. They're all mixed together, and you can't just say that this is purely marketing, because it's not. The Convention and Visitors Bureau is a lot about hobnobbing, about social engagement, about taking people out to dinner and saying, hey, now that we've got you here over this big steak with the grand vegetable dish and the very fine $15 salad, let's talk about getting your convention into Chattanooga. And so that's what the staff people and probably some of the board people do, at least in outward form, in favor of Chattanooga, in favor of the lodging industry, the restaurant industry, and other fields of business that prosper from visitors, right? Visitors who are here in their shorts and their cameras, their summer gear all patted down with sunscreen oil, and their white hats and their sunglasses, and they're clearly lightly dressed and ready to enjoy a bit of tourism. And so the CVB has that as its goal. That's the goal to get people into Chattanooga. And to do that, it spends about $8 million. Well, it has a, let's see, it has, hold on just a second. Hang on a second. Yeah, this is David Tulis. Excuse me for that moment of dead air there here on the airways. Silence radiating out from our powerful tower in Saudi Daisy, but the silence now is filled with conversation. And we're going to have Tim Boyd on the phone. I think he was trying to come in, but evidently he's had a problem. And Tim, yes, David Tulis. What? Thanks for calling me in. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
All right, tell my listener about this vote yesterday to rescind or undo from the beginning, as it were, the resolution which put controls on nonprofit organizations that are getting county money. There was a measure to try to meet the opposition halfway that failed. What happened yesterday night in the county commission, Tim Boyd?
Well, I really can't explain exactly what happened because there was little or no deliberation. Fellow commissioner made a motion to rescind the resolution, and it was seconded and then voted on 7-2 to rescind it, and there wasn't any discussion from any of those that voted against it. I mean, any of them. They didn't explain their reasoning. They didn't try to. Commissioner Smedley chimed in just for a little bit, talking about she had heard that from some nonprofit, primarily the Humane Society, that said they couldn't comply with the procurement portion of the resolution. But basically, your listeners need to know that what Commissioner Boyd is trying to do is bring transparency and accountability to the nonprofits that are using county tax dollars to do their business with no reporting or accountability back to the commission. The commission is ultimately the only elected officials with the authority to give the money. The county mayor doesn't have the authority to give the money. He can put it in his budget, but ultimately it's the commissioners that allow the money to be given to these nonprofits, and they're doing so with little or no accountability. And what this resolution does is it puts some policies in place that if you're going to live off the county tax dollars, then you need to operate your organization as a county, an extension of the county government. And that's all it does. And the county has very explicit policies for spending money, and I don't see that these nonprofits, if they're being managed properly in a professional manner, they ought to have similar policies in place anyway. The problem is that the boards that are over these nonprofits generally are volunteers. They don't have real skin in the game. And the taxpayers, i.e. the commissioners, don't even have any representation at the table, and they're the ones giving away all this money. I'm just not going to go along with it anymore, and the resolution was trying to establish some policies for these nonprofits to use the money be good stewards of the money. And as you know, I've been investigating CVB, which is like the worst case scenario of management out of control. Do they do good work? I've told you and your listeners, yes. Are they spending a lot more money than they have to? I think so, and I think they're spending it in a mismanaged manner. And what I want to do is we need to put some policies and procedures in place on how these tax dollars are spent, or don't ask for the money.
Well, let me ask you a question, Tim. Let me ask you a question about, I've not talked with the other commissioners, and so I'm only guessing. Is there some reluctance on their part to keep this resolution in effect, effectively this rule in effect, because it brings one more new job that they have to do. They have to now be open to being on a board of a nonprofit about which they may care nothing. They don't want another drain on their time. Is that a possibility for the reasoning behind their no vote?
One of the commissioners brought that up to me after the vote yesterday, and I said, okay, amend the resolution where the county commission appoints their representative to the boards of these nonprofits. It doesn't have to be a commissioner, but it needs to have, the commission needs representation on these boards. And right now, we don't have representation, and we're the only elected officials that have any accountability to the citizens of Hamilton County.
Well, what if this particular nonprofit organization, Tim Boyd, receives only, let's say, $90,000, and then the other one receives $110,000? What are they different? Should one get this sort of oversight and the other one not? I mean, what happened?
Well, at some point, you got it. What I was trying to do with the resolution is make some kind of rules where, if it's not a significant amount of money, then they probably don't need all the oversight that some of these that are receiving hundreds, if not millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. But yesterday I suggested, okay, let's put $100,000 cap on it. If you're below the $100,000, you don't have to comply with the resolution. If you're over $100,000 and the amount of monies we're giving you are 25% of your operating budget, you do have to comply. Well, that would have knocked out all but 2 or 3 nonprofits that we give this $14.5 million to. And the commission didn't even go along with that suggestion. So I think it's a loss for the community. It's a loss for the voters, the citizens, the tax-paying citizens, to know that we still are going to be giving this money away with effectively no accountability back to the taxpayers. And do they have to fill a 990 out to the IRS? Yes. How many taxpayers even know how to access copies of that? Little or none. And then you have to have a password to get onto the site. So you have to pay a fee to get a copy of it. Well, how many taxpayers are going to do that? Probably none. The only way I get on it is I bootleg a password from a nonprofit that's paying the dues.
Are we talking about a password to the IRS?
Are going to have access to those 990s? Not very many.
Well, this is David Tulis. We're talking with County Commissioner Tim Boyd, whose efforts to regulate and oversee recipients of you might say, the county gravy train in the nonprofit sector. That resolution was rescinded last night, 7-2. Now we're talking here about $14.5 million that the county gives per year to these nonprofits. And just to back up and make sure I understood you correctly, Tim, how many are we talking about altogether that get this money? And the amendment that you proposed to shave off some of the smaller recipients that failed. How many? And I think you said 3 or 4, 2 or 3 would have been left if there had been $100,000 floor laid down there. Yes.
I don't know the exact number of nonprofits. I should. It's listed in the budget. Some of the nonprofits. I'll give you an example. One of the nonprofits we give $10,000 or $15,000 a year to. It's the Armed Forces Day Parade Committee that does that Armed Forces Day Parade. Okay, who's going to argue with $10,000 or $15,000 to put on one of the few Armed Forces Day parades left in the United States? I certainly am not, and I don't have a problem with that. So you've got some nonprofits that receive very little money, all the way up to CVB that receives potentially $8.2 million this year, and then there's a lot of volunteer fire departments in the unincorporated areas of the county that receive. They're all nonprofits, and they all receive $25,000, $30,000, $35,000 a piece. That's not great amounts of money, but if it's a real burden on them, Why don't they come to the commission and tell us how it's a burden is, and then we, you know, if you've got a resolution and it needs to be amended, I've got no problem with that. If you've got a resolution and special interest groups want it taken off the table and gotten rid of, I got a real problem with that. And because there wasn't any discussion or deliberation, I don't even know why these other commissioners voted against it.
Are they thinking somehow that you're too bold, that you're too noisy, that you're in conflict with this board, especially over the access of documents, that somehow it's just too dangerous for them? If they're maybe safer, trying to be safe, trying to be quiet in their public service, you are making a very clear stand, particularly in your battle with the Convention Visitors Bureau and access to its files. You're determined that the taxpayers' investment, if you will, the taxpayers' expense, is not just whittled away, blown away in travel, stays in Las Vegas, fancy dinners, $500 meals in restaurants in Los Angeles.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, CVB, even though Bob Doak tells me I don't know what I'm talking about, I do know what he has told me. And he's told me that over 90% of the people that visit Chattanooga come within a 150-mile radius of Chattanooga. Why are we spending money all over the country going to conventions every week? They're going somewhere. What are they doing? How are they recruiting people if the market is right here in your back door? Okay, we'd advertise it on TV in the Atlanta market, the Huntsville market, Knoxville. I get that. I totally get it. What I'm not getting is, like you said, these $500 dinners in Atlanta, $1,400 dinners in Nashville. Who are they entertaining? How many people? They don't even show receipts. Bob Doak, controller of his own employee, told the reporter at the Chattanoogan, Bob Doak doesn't keep receipts. That in itself is a violation of IRS nonprofit regulations based on record keeping. A private business has to keep records about expenses, and here we have a president and CEO making over $200,000 a year having the audacity to say, I don't have to do that. I'm not keeping receipts. You pay me off of my bank statement. That is wrong, especially wrong since it's taxpayers' dollars. It's not money he's gone out and earned. That's wrong. It's just wrong, and it's got to stop. Well, maybe I'm not going to stop the fight.
Maybe Bob Doak.
If anything, I'm going to fight more.
Maybe Bob Doak thinks that because the tax money is collected from strangers and aliens and visitors to Chattanooga through the hotel motel tax, and it's not paid by local people, that somehow that money is not as important and is not as taxpayer, does not have the name of taxpayer on it as big in as big and bold a letter as if it were collected from local people. Maybe in his mind, it's free money.
If he wants to take that stance, I'll argue with him that all day long. If we look back at the resolution as to why the state legislators even give the county and the cities options to charge that hotel motel tax, it's not to support CVBs. It never was. What it was originally designed to do is exactly what the city of Chattanooga is using their hotel motel tax for. 100% of their hotel motel tax is going to service debt on improvements to the community that help tourism. They're using 100% of their hotel motel tax to service the debt on the riverfront improvements, which everybody enjoys and has been invaluable to Chattanooga. That's what the hotel occupancy tax was originally designed to do. The county in 2007, for some unknown reason to me, just decided we're going to get out of the brick and mortar business with this CVB tax. I mean, the hotel motel tax, and we're just going to give it all to the CVB to spend on their friends, their travel, and advertising. And Bob Doak claims he brings in $1 billion of tourism a year with the way he manages that organization. I say he could bring in $1 billion with a lot less money is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
there's no way you can
novel,
really
I'm
know. There's
saying-
no way you can really know how much you're bringing. That's very hard to measure. Well, Tim Boyd, listen, thank you very much for joining us. Tim.
All right, thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Tim Boyd's county commissioner and is making a kind of PR war versus the Convention Visitors Bureau, which receives $8 million of taxpayer money with little accountability. And Tim Boyd, in many ways, represents the interests of local economy. That is to say, you, my listener, David Tulis.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
Now, me being a radio guy, I'm